It's been a good week for Ohio congressional candidate Nina Turner. Yesterday, the Women's March threw its support behind Turner. It's the group's first ever electoral endorsement. Meanwhile, Shontel Brown, Turner's main opponent, might face an ethics probe after reportedly voting to give millions of dollars in contracts to companies connected to her partner and biggest donors when she was a Cuyahoga County Council member.
Joining us now to discuss is political reporter here at The Hill, Julia Manchester. Welcome to the show.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
So what is the latest scandal with these two, Nina Turner? This is a really contested, hotly contested race, isn't this?
It's very contested, and you are definitely seeing both sides getting very negative, really, in the last week of this campaign. Nina Turner very much accusing Shontel Brown of bringing in dark money into the race and getting the Democratic establishment into the race, saying they are trying to prevent the progressive movement from gaining traction. And Shontel Brown's side of the campaign very much attacking Nina Turner. You've actually seen a lot of attacks on the issue of the support of Israel. We know that the progressive wing of the Democratic Party has been very critical of Israel. There are lots of Jewish voters in this particular district in Ohio, so you're seeing a lot of talk on the airwaves about that, but extremely contentious. And really, in this particular district, this primary is so incredibly important because it's a heavily Democratic-leaning district. So Democrats are very much likely to win this in November. So right now, this primary will determine the direction of the Democratic Party, not only in Ohio, but also potentially nationwide.
And what does the endorsement from the Women's March mean? Is that likely to really help her against her opponent?
Well, I think it depends who you talk to. You know, Shontel's wing of this campaign, her supporters would say, look, it's just another outside group flexing its muscles for Nina Turner. It doesn't necessarily reflect what true Ohioans are thinking right now in this race. They're very much touting more Ohio-based endorsements, such as that of former Governor Ted Strickland in Ohio yesterday. However, Nina Turner's wing of the party would say this shows how much the grassroots of the Democratic Party is getting behind her. Remember, the Women's March is very much a grassroots organization, and this is actually their first ever political endorsement. So it shows how important this race is to the grassroots of the progressive movement and maybe to the Democratic Party as a whole. And when we look at this from the perspective of the Women's March, you know, they told me that they are very much expecting to launch more of these political endorsements going into 2022.
So now with this ethics probe, Shontel Brown, she's in a lot of trouble right now, right? I mean, at least that's what it appears to be, that there was maybe a $17 million deal that was given to her partner's family or something along those lines. What is this ethics issue? And is there anything to it, or is this just another smear?
Well, I think, once again, you're going to see this spun in very different ways on different sides of this campaign. This was essentially over money that was supporting companies that were related or connected to her romantic partner, allegedly. So you are going to see that this fits in very much with the narrative that Nina Turner's side of the campaign has been pushing, saying this shows how much dark money has been involved, you know, how much the corporate interests have been involved in Shontel Brown's political life, and they are going to tie Shontel Brown to that corporate side of American politics. Now, we see from that article that Shontel Brown's campaign hasn't responded, but I think a lot of her supporters today are saying this is another smear from Nina Turner's supporters.
Well, as the race nears a close, a super PAC that has already spent over $1 million attacking Nina Turner dropped another $260,000. So what's up with this group?
Well, yeah, we're seeing that lots of super PACs particularly on the side supporting Shontel Brown has dropped quite a bit of money for this race to boost her. And we're seeing this last minute spending is really done in the days before Election Day. And we're seeing that this appears to have helped Shontel Brown in the polls. We know that Nina Turner has high name ID, not only in the Cleveland area during her time as a state senator, but also due to her former position as the chairwoman, of former presidential candidate Bernie Sanders' campaign. So she had that leg up. However, now you're seeing more Cleveland voters, Cleveland area voters, getting exposed to Shontel Brown through this advertisement, that is coming from spending. And you're also seeing this from the PAC, the DMFI PAC, that is a pro-Israel Democratic PAC. And like I said before, there's a lot of Jewish voters in this district, so they are very much trying to make that an issue in the campaign.
You know, I think a lot of national pundits always want to make every local race describe how it's this proxy battle for some larger war or ideological conflict. But of course, all races are idiosyncratic and they are local and they have to do with local politics. But is this one? So I'm going to commit that fallacy I just outlined. Does this represent some kind of struggle, the struggle that's going on within the Democratic Party between an establishment and a progressive movement, or are we reading too much into it and it's really a local race?
Well, it's interesting. The establishment flank of the party, who has very much gotten behind Shontel Brown. I mean, you see Hillary Clinton and House Majority Whip Jim Clyburn endorsing Shontel Brown and campaigning for her. They will say that this is a local race, and they're very much trying to make this about the Cleveland area itself. However, talking to progressive sources in this race, they say this race very well could determine the direction of the Democratic Party when you have figures like Bernie Sanders and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez traveling to the district to really rev up that progressive grassroots base. They say that in Ohio, a state that traditionally has leaned red in recent years, they believe that getting that progressive base fired up could be part of the formula to flip Ohio blue sometime in the future. So it really depends on who you talk to, but I would say progressives are very much viewing this as a proxy battle.
Thanks for that analysis, Julia. We really appreciate it.
Thanks, Julia.
More Rising right after this.